Welcome. This is the Enlightenment Show, and I'm your host, Laurie Schoenfeld. This is where Chicken Soup for the Soul meets the artist way with Nancy Drew. Our guest today is Mary Keliikoa, author of Hidden Pieces. We're going to be chatting with her today all about her new release and something that's been hard for her to find. Welcome, Mary.
Hi, Laurie. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. How is your week been? What's been interesting within your life right now?
Oh, I'm getting ready to go to Hawaii next week. So I've been busy wrapping up a few projects and heading to the islands for Thanksgiving. So with my sister. So it's going to be fun.
That you just gave me a whole, I felt like the sun was just shining on me and I could hear the waves.
Palm trees are swaying.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's lovely.
Yes, enjoy and soak all that in, and please share some pictures.
Oh, for sure.
Can you share with our listeners and viewers today what Hidden Pieces is all about?
Yeah, so Hidden Pieces is a story of Sheriff Jax Turner. And he's a little bit of a man on the edge. He's literally staring down the barrel of a broken past, I like to say. And he gets a phone call of a missing 14-year-old girl. And that is the beginning of the story. And his search for that girl will bring him some purpose in his life and some redemption. And at the end of the day, that's what Hidden Pieces is about. So.
Where did you draw from when you were writing your main character, Jax, and losing his daughter?
Well, Jax is kind of a hardcore. He's former Navy. He's around 50 years old, a little older than 50. And he is kind of a compilation of a lot of men I've known throughout my life. My dad was a World War II vet. My brother-in-law is a Vietnam vet. And I've been around a lot of military people. So it was really easy to draw kind of that stoic type of personality a little bit, but also knowing that underneath all of that is just a big old teddy bear. So, and a real sensitive soul. And so I really drew from a lot of strong men, and my husband too, like the tenacity and stuff. I just kind of grabbed from a lot of great people in my life and created Jax through that. So.
Has there been a loss within your family or life that hit home with in this book?
Let's see. Well, yes and no. I mean, grief, right? I think I've drawn through a lot of grief through my life. I've lost a brother, and my father's gone, and my mom died in March. But, it's just, I think, grief is very universal. And so it wasn't really too hard to find. But, the actual case was inspired by a true crime that happened in my small town that I lived in. And so that was part of the impetus of that. So, but the grief of it that is explored is just really kind of drawn from my own stuff. It wasn't hard. I've never lost a child, thank goodness, but, close family members for sure.
Yeah. So the beginning, and we were talking a little bit about this before the show, the beginning and the end for me, I cried in both spots because there's a lot of layers of loss and grief and the emotions that we all go through in different levels. My daughter's nickname is Lulu, so that just put me kind of over the mama head, just like, oh my gosh, Jax.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, that would be hard to see that. Yeah, because she dies at 5 at leukemia. So he took that very, very personally, of course. Yeah, because he's a man that thinks he can fix everything. And that was something he could not fix. So, yeah, he took that very hard.
Yes. Yeah. How do you think, Mary, that couples during grief either come closer together or they pull further apart?
Oh gosh, that's such a great question. Well, I think it kind of depends on the personality type to some degree. Like in this case, Jax and Abby were very kind of compartmentalized people, right? Because they're in law enforcement, and so they were very, they see things a certain way, and leaning on each other wasn't their first instinct. So they withdrew. And they withdrew because they had to function in the other form. So they're like, okay, we're just going to put that in a box and we're going to keep on moving. Unfortunately, that just kind of creates that wedge. And then the divide becomes further and further away because you're dealing with everything on your own, right? So
Mhm.
I think couples who can lean into each other obviously are going to have a whole lot more success at doing that and not having the blame. I mean, there was nobody to blame, obviously, for
Mhm.
cancer. Um, but the fact that they both feel that on some level they failed because they couldn't fix this makes them separate. And so then they went farther apart. And in their case, not such a great result in the end. Yeah.
Right. We have a comment coming in. Hi, Zaid. Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate you. You, I hear, love jury duty. Tell us about that.
Well, as a writer, I think, it's such a great place to observe personalities and, you know, the traits, the different traits. But I also like just to hear the case, right? And just be drawn into that whole process. I spent 18 years doing legal work prior. And so I did litigation as a litigation secretary and a paralegal. And so I was running up and back to the courthouse anyway. And I just loved the buzz of a courthouse. It's just, I think if I had my life to do over again, I might even get into law enforcement. Like I like that kind of thing. But
Mhm.
yeah, so I love jury duty, and I was not getting called early on in life because I was in the legal field, and so I'd get dismissed, a few times. But but as a writer, I actually did get to sit on a jury, and I had a great time. So I'm like, call me again. Here's my number. Just I'll be there.
Were you with the notebook, Mary, like taking notes and just
Oh
soaking
yeah,
in like all the energy and like
yeah.
perspectives and all of it?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a student first, always about everything. Any situation I go into, I'm an observer. I'm trying to learn the situation, pick up pieces for personality traits. That's just, yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I do.
You have written multiple mystery and thriller novels. How was this experience of writing hidden pieces different for you?
Oh, well, probably the first thing that's different is that I chose to go a male character route. So that was completely different because I've always written women as my main character. My Kelly Pruett series was based on, a single mom of a deaf daughter. And so that was a whole different type of character. Um, and and Hidden Pieces, he was much darker too. I mean, he starts out in a very dark place. He had nowhere else to go but up. So and so he was negotiating kind of with himself for survival, where like other characters I've written were just trying to be seen in the world. He's just trying to make it to the next day in the world type of thing. So it was a very different experience. I had to go to a darker place in a lot of ways with this character. And I had to do some more self-care in that way. Like because he was so dark, I'd have to come out of it and take a long walk and say, okay, leaving him behind today. That was a dark scene. We're just going to keep on moving. So, it's just, I had to exercise a little bit more of that in writing this book in the
Mhm.
beginning parts for sure.
I love how you brought that up, Mary, of like, as you're going into that emotional aspect with your character, there is that piece for sure of like stepping away and taking those mental health breaks too, to
Yeah.
breathe a little bit through that.
Yeah. And it's not something I'm great at. It's something I'm learning as a writer that I need to be doing that. And this was the first book that I really needed to find that place and do something different to kind of break and shake it off a little bit for the day.
Yeah. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us. She says, "Hi, Mary. I would love to know how you do such an amazing job at digging into your character's psyche." Great question, Jessica.
Geez, Jessica. Nice to meet you, Jessica. Nice to have you here. Oh gosh, how do I go into it? I think when you're first writing, you get the story down. I'm a pantser all the way. So the first time that I meet my character, it's a certain level of a familiarity, right? I know who you are and I know what your background is, but it's really through that editing process that you kind of go back through and you drop further into who they are. And you really, I mean, really, I step into their shoes and I think, if this was my child and I had lost them, and, if this was my marriage and I had lost this marriage, and I really think about that. And I do have had some of those life experiences. So they're not far to pull from, but I just, but I also have to think about them from a man's perspective to some degree. Like, how would a man necessarily, do this? Like for Jax, I think writing Elena was a little easier sometimes because, well, I know how a woman thinks. So, I can drop right into that a little bit. But yeah, I just think digging in, just the several edits, kind of moving through the process until I find the right tone for where I want to be with the book and where I want them to go too. I really find that psyche and then, okay, where are we going from here? So.
Was this book cathartic for you, Mary, in your own levels of grief that maybe you were walking through as you were writing the story?
Oh, I think so, for sure. I mean, writing to me is always about healing on some level. You're always working on your process, whether we admit it or not. Even when we're writing serial killers and murder, people would be like, how does that work? But at the end of the day, a good book is about character and the character, it's being thrown several things at them and it's how they're processing that. And that is the cathartic part, is like really digging into the emotional part, not the plot, but the character of it. And you bet. I mean, just looking at something through their eyes as they talk themselves into healing and letting go, you're doing the same thing on some level because you are talking that through the character. You're recognizing that in through your character. So it's been very cathartic. I think every book I write on some level heals just a little bit more of you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What are a few things that you have learned along your author journey?
Oh, along the whole journey, let's see. Resilience is key. Yeah, you have to be resilient. You have to be flexible. And you have to show up, right? You have to show up every day, kind of doing, not every day. I mean, some people say you have to write every day. And I do write every day. I don't know that you always have to, though. I mean, I take long breaks. I'm going to take 2 weeks off and enjoy the sunshine here pretty soon. But I think resilience probably is the biggest lesson I've learned. That if you just do what you can do, control what you control, let go of the rest, you'll make for a happier journey. Because you can get really wanting the things a certain way, and it's like life. It's a mirror of life in general. We can't control everything. So we might as well just enjoy what we do have and keep going. So I'm having a good time. So
do you feel that every book that you write, you learn just a little bit more about yourself and the process of the creative journey?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think every book you write shows you a little bit deeper, of how to create story arc. Now when I sit down to write a story, I ask questions that I never asked in the beginning part. I used to just sit down and just go right to all the way through. Now I ask a few questions up front, like how do I want this to end? What am I really trying to say here? Like and maybe I want the plot. I like to know what the murder is or the crime is now before I start. Get some of these pieces out of the way. They make the journey a little bit easier as I start through the process of writing. I don't hit a wall quite so quickly. So I think, yeah, every time and you get a little more confidence too, because when I hit a wall, so in the past, I might panic a little bit. Now I'm like, okay, it's not happening. Take a walk, go have a cup of coffee, go do this, go do that. It'll come tomorrow. And it usually does. If it's not tomorrow, the next day. So I've learned some patience in the process too. And if it isn't coming so easily, maybe it's not the right book at that moment. I've learned that too. So put it away and find something that's speaking to you, perhaps. So
I love that. It felt like just being very nurturing and giving yourself a break, not taking yourself so seriously, doing the work, but also giving yourself a little bit of a break too as you're putting in the work of learning, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because we can't force it sometimes. And I think that's where the frustration comes in, is like when you really want it to work. And sometimes the best thing you can do is just give yourself some breathing space. Yeah.
What's something that has been hidden that you've had a hard time finding in your life?
Balance. The balance is that, I'm on a quest for balance at all times. And I've had a hard time finding it. I'm an all or nothing girl sometimes. Yeah. And just, I think it's just part of my DNA. You know, I'm an entrepreneur in my day life. I own a company. And my husband and I both own it. And then prior to that, I was a hustler in the legal field and, in the writing. And when I go all in on something. And finding that balance and having that self-care really is important. Getting making sure I'm exercising or doing these things, because I can be all in if I'm not careful. So I'm very hyper-focused sometimes. And I need to pull it back, relax, and go have fun.
I see you, Mary, because me too. There's times where I don't even know what's going on. And then I look at the clock and I'm like, how long have I been just like...
Yeah. And it's amazing how the hours can tick by when you really, but it shows we love what we're doing too. I mean, I think when you're in the zone and you're passionate about things, and those are all great things, but there is sunshine outside and a dog that could be walked, and a walk that could be taken. So I think it's really good to have balance, right? And friendships that should be nurtured constantly, and just relationships in general. So I hear you. I feel you, Lori.
We're going to turn it to the inner child question segment. Are you ready, Mary?
Oh, okay, sure.
First question. What type of puzzles did you enjoy doing when you were a kid?
What type of puzzles? Well, I like crosswords. I like things with words. Word games, anything to do with word games. I'm all about the word stuff.
Me too. Did you ever, I don't know if they have them anymore, but they used to have these like booklets that were word games, but it came with a flashlight, like a glow in the dark flashlight. So you like literally had to do it in the dark and like light the little flashlight on the letters as you were trying to figure out the puzzle. Did you ever see one of those things?
No, I feel deprived now because I would have loved that. No, I didn't know that. That would have been fabulous.
I'll have to look and see if they still have them simmering around, and I'll send you a picture because they were pretty amazing.
Oh, yeah, I'd love that. Yeah, no, I didn't know about those.
Second question for you. If you were going to cosplay your favorite detective investigator, who would it be and why?
Define cosplay. Tell me what cosplay. What do you mean?
If you were to dress up in any form of your favorite character and become...
I loved Kinsey Millhone. So I was a Sue Grafton fan. So I'd probably be Kinsey. She's just smart, whip smart, and just I just loved her. Yeah, I've read most of her books, and yeah, I'm a PI girl. I like PIs.
That's a great pick. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Third question. What is the oddest food combo that you've liked and tried, or you've just tried?
The oddest food combo. Not recently, but ketchup on mac and cheese is always kind of an interesting thing. But I kind of like it. My little kid kind of likes it. I don't know. Does it like ketchup can make most things taste good though, so that's probably the oddest thing. I don't eat like that anymore. I'm like grilled chicken, salad. I'm a sushi fan all the way, lots of fish. So I don't really eat like that anymore. But my little kid did. Yeah, I like mac and cheese.
We had ketchup and mac and cheese for a long time too. Like there's something about it that just makes a very interesting combo, but it definitely works.
Yeah, it's a little odd, but it works.
It is.
It does.
Before we end today, Mary, what advice can you give our listeners and viewers on living a creatively abundant life?
Advice. Well, I think probably the best thing is just do you, right? Just find what makes you tick and don't let anybody tell you how to do it differently. Just be you. I think at the end of the day, especially in writing or in art and a lot of the stuff, it's such a solo endeavor in a lot of ways. And I think if we're constantly striving for that approval of how to do it, and it just catches us all up and messes everything. It messes up the whole system. So just really focus on what you love and do your own things and find joy in that, because really that's all we can control. So go for that. Go for joy. What the heck?
Go for joy. Yes, I love that. Yeah. Do you have any projects that you are working on right now that you can talk about?
Well, let's see. I'm finishing up edits on the second book of the series. Hidden Pieces is book 1, of course. And so Deadly Tides will be out next year. And so I've been busy working on edits. And then I'm working on a new thriller kind of book where it's a husband and wife play these kind of high adventure games, and one of the games goes really wrong, and that's all I can say about it. But
I'm super intrigued.
I'm still kind of, I'm about 50 pages in at this point, so I'm just starting that. But yeah, so I'm always working on something. So
I'm looking forward to what that turns out to be.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be different than what I've written in the past. A little more edgy. And I think that's what's fun about writing, right? Finding those fun places to kind of navigate into and do some fun things. So I'm excited.
Absolutely. Where can our listeners and viewers find you if they have any questions for you after the show or want to find Hidden Pieces?
Well, you can always go to my website, which is just my name, marykeliikoa.com. And then social media. I'm Mary Keliikoa author on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. So I'm always happy to field questions or, answer anything. So feel free. And Hidden Pieces is on my website or anywhere, really, any place that books are sold. You can order it in or place orders right there. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Mary. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Lori, for having me. Take care.
Absolutely. And thank you for all who have watched this and will watch on the replay. We're so grateful for you. Remember, as you go about the rest of your week, to find the things that are working within your life. You are the creator of your own story. What steps will you take next? Have a beautiful rest of your day, everyone. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.